Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is Style in V, and this is a tutorial on how to make this A-line dress and side loops with a side drape and also a bell sleeve, as you can see on this video. So I got this inspiration from Boye, and we will be recreating this dress. So I'll be using 3 yards of fabric to make this dress. So I'm gonna head to cut out 1 yard for the sleeve, and this is the remaining 2 yards. So I fold my fabric into 4, and from the top of my fabric like this, I'll go ahead and mark 1 inches as my top line, as you all can see me doing. So remember, I said it is folded into 4, meaning I am cutting both the front and back piece together. So it's just the neckline that differs. So I'll just go ahead and connect all the lines that I marked. So the next step for me to do is to mark out half of my shoulder measurements. The shoulder for this client is 16 and half of it is 8 inches. So I'll mark it out and I'll come down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. And the next thing I'll do is to get the bust line, and I'll go ahead and mark 8 inches as the bust line. So for you, you can divide your bust circumference by 6 and add 1.5 inches. So whatever you have will be your bust line. So I'll just go ahead and connect like this and give it an L shape, and this is what we have. So the next step for me to do is just to give it the armhole curve, because this is a free hand. So you just go ahead and give it your armhole curve like this. The next step is to mark out our neck width and neck depth. So I'll be using a neck width of 2.5 inches, and for our neck depth for the back, I'll be using 1 inch, and I'll connect it like this. And for the front neck depth, I will go ahead and mark 7 inches as the depth, and on this point where I marked 7 inches, I'll go ahead and mark 3.5 inches like this. So this is like a Queen Anne neckline, but not really Queen Anne neckline. So that's why I marked 3.5 inches on this area where I have my 7 inches depth. So I'll just go ahead and connect it like this, as you all can see me showing you right here. So now when I am done, the next step for us to do is to mark out our half length. Now the half length for this client is 17 inches. So from the top, that is from the top line here, I'll go ahead and mark 17 inches like this, as you all can see me doing. I'll mark out the 17 inches. Now on the chest line, which is also the bust line, I'll go ahead and divide my bust circumference by 4, and whatever measurement I have, I will mark it there. So this is what we have, and I will mark 1 inch for ease and 1.5 inches as my sewing allowance. Remember what I did? I divided my bust circumference by 4 and I marked it down, and I added 1 inch for ease and added 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. The same thing I did on my bust line, I'll do the same thing on my waistline. I'll divide my waist circumference by 4. I will mark 1 inch for ease and 1.5 inches for sewing allowance. And the next thing I would do is to connect like this, as you all can see me doing. I'll just go ahead and connect it. So when I'm done, I will take my gown length. That is how long you want your gown to be. Now for this gown length, I'll be using 52 inches, and I'll add 2 inches as my hemming allowance. So that means I am using a gown length of 54 inches. So apologies guys, because of the color of fabric I am using, that is why the color of the chalk is not visible, but from my explanation you will understand better. So I'll just go ahead and mark out the gown length like this, which is 54 inches. Now on this area where I have my gown length, the width I have, remember I said I used the whole 2 yards of fabric, so I am having a width of 17 inches on this point where I have my gown length. So we'll be using the whole width. I'm using a width of 17 inches here, so we'll be using the whole width, and I'll connect from my waistline here to meet the gown length. So look at how I will connect it. So I'll just go ahead and be connecting it slantly till I get to the gown length like this. That is to the edge of the gown length. So you just go ahead and connect it slantly like this, and this is what we have right here. So the next thing I will do is to determine where my loop will start from. So I want it to start from the underbust to the waistline area. So now I'll just go ahead and mark, and I'll mark the underbust, the waistline, and in between the underbust and the waistline. So that is where I will be inserting the loops. So guys, we're done drafting, and the next thing I will do is to cut. So watch how I will cut. I'll cut following the shape. So remember I said I drafted both the back and front piece together. So I'll just go ahead and cut both the back and front like this. So the next step for us to do is to cut out the back neckline first. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the back neckline. So after cutting out the back neckline, I also go ahead and cut the shoulder slope. So this is what we have. So I'll take out the back piece, and before taking out the back piece, I'll notch the underbust, notch the midpoint, and also the waistline like this. So I'll notch all sides together. So this will guide me in order for me to know where to put my loops when I am done shaping. So I'll just go ahead and take out the back piece, and let's work on the front piece. So I'll fold my front piece like this, and I will cut. Now look at how I will cut. I'll cut following the shape of the neckline that we have here, and this is what we have. So the next step for us to do is to cut out the facing for this. So I'll go ahead and fold a piece of fabric into two and cut out the facing for it. Now watch how I will fold my fabric like this. I'll go ahead and fold it into two like this, and I'll place the neckline on the folded part. That is, I'll place the neckline area, the folded part of my dress, to the folded part of this fabric piece that we have here, and I will trace out the neckline like this. So after doing this, I'll go ahead and trace the neckline exactly using my chalk on this fabric. Now I'll trace it to meet the shoulder line, and when I'm done, I will come down by 3 inches from the neck depth and come in by 3 inches from the neck width, and I'll connect like this following this shape. So when I'm done, I'll just go ahead and cut it out. So just watch what I am doing. So this is how to cut a facing for your neckline. So this is what we have. So the next step for me to do is to cut the facing for the back neckline, and I will also repeat the same process. I'll fold my fabric into two like this. I'll go ahead and fold it into two, and with the folded parts, this is where the folded part of my dress will be. So I'll just also go ahead and fold my dress into two like this, and I will place it on this piece that we have here. So the same thing we did for the front is the same thing we will do for the back. I'll just go ahead and place the folded part on this folded part of this piece that we have here. So the next thing I will do is to trace out the neckline. I'll just go ahead and trace out the neckline, and from this neckline width here, I will come in by 3 inches. After tracing out the neckline, I will mark 3 inches on the width area and 3 inches on the depth area, and I'll connect all the lines together like this. So when I'm done, I'll just go ahead and trim this off following the neckline shape like this. So I'll just go ahead and follow the neckline shape. So the next step is to draft out the sleeve for this dress. So the length I'll be using for this sleeve is 22 inches, and I'll add 2 extra inches for folding allowance. So this is a bell sleeve. So I'll just go ahead and fold my fabric like this. Now, in order for you to know the width of fabric to fold, you divide your round arm circumference by 2 and you add 3 inches to it. So I'll just go ahead and I will come down by my sleeve length. After folding my fabric into 2, I'll just go ahead and mark my sleeve length, which is 24 inches like this, as you can see me showing you all right here. And I will cut this out, and let's work on the sleeve itself like this. So now the next step I would do is to come down by 3.5 inches. You can come down by 3.5 inches or 4 inches to get your biceps. And on this bicep line, you divide your round arm circumference by 2 and you mark 1 extra inch for ease and 1.5 inches for joining allowance. So I'll just go ahead and connect it to meet the hemline, and when I'm done, I'll just give it my sleeve shape like this. So that's just basically all, and I'll go ahead and trim this off following the shape of the sleeve, and this is what we have. So I'll be uploading a tutorial on how to draft the sleeve so you can learn it better. I don't want this video to be too long, that is why I had to increase the speed of this particular side. So the next step for us to do is to join. So the first thing I did was to add an hairstay to the facing of the neckline. Yes, I've gone ahead to add out and hairstay to it. So the next step for us to do is to sew. That is by joining the facing to the neckline of the dress. I'll go ahead and sew following the shape of the neckline like this. Whatever thing I do to the front, I will also do the same thing to the back piece. I'll go ahead and place it right side facing right side, please. Right side facing right side, and I will sew the neckline area for both the front and the back piece. So I've also gone ahead to sew the rope for this dress. It's just a very long rope. The way you normally sew your rope, that's the same way I sew out this rope. So it's just very long so that you'll be able to go around the loops and also cut part of the loop on this using this rope too. So for the length of my loop, I use 3 inches as the length of my loops. So I'll just go ahead and cut out 6 loops, because 3 for the right side and 3 loops for the left side. So that's why I cut out 6 loops for it. Remember I said I'm using a length of 3 inches, so you can make yours longer than this, but just ensure that your rope will be able to pass through the holes of the loop. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the 6 loops right here, and I will keep this aside. Then I'll just go ahead and sew the neckline area of our dress. So guys, I am done sewing the neckline, and this is what we have. So I also went ahead to give it a good press when I was done sewing. So the next step for us to do is to join the shoulders, and this is how I will join the shoulders. I will join both the back and front shoulders like this, and I'll take it over to my sewing machine and I will sew. So before sewing, I will have to hold it on with a pin so it won't shift. So this is how I will join the shoulders. Now by doing it this way, it gives it this neat finishing. So I'll just go ahead and join it this way, and I will pin it before sewing. So I'll take it over to my sewing machine and sew it 1/2 inch like this. So guys, I am done joining the shoulder. I also went ahead to give it a good press. So the next step for us to do is to work on the sleeve. I'll go ahead and fold my sleeve into 2 equal halves like this, and I will notch the midpoint of my sleeve. Now I'll go ahead and place the midpoint of this sleeve to the shoulder line. That is the midpoint of your sleeve. You just go ahead and place it to the shoulder line, and you hold it on with a pin, and I will sew from this midpoint here. I'll sew to meet the armhole area. Then I will come back again from the midpoint. I will also sew to meet the armhole area. Now whatever thing I do to one end, I will do it to the other end. So guys, I am done joining the sleeve to the dress, and the next thing for us to do is to shape. Now look at how I will shape. I will ensure that the armhole of the 2 sides of the sleeve meets at the same point. So you can watch what I am doing. So I'll just go ahead and hold it with a pin like this, and I'll also ensure that the hemline meets at the same point like this, and every other side. So I'll ensure that all other sides meet together. Whatever thing I do to one end, I will do it to the other end. So guys, I am done pinning, and the next thing for us to do is to shape. So I'll just go ahead and shape with the 1.5 inches allowance that we added earlier for our joining allowance. So I'll just go ahead and mark following the shape of the dress. So remember the notch that we notched earlier from the underbust to the waistline for our loops. I will also go ahead and shape and mark out the 1.5 inches allowance, even though we will not be sewing that particular side when shaping. So I'll just go ahead and continue the shaping till I get to the hem line. So whatever thing I do to one end, I'll do it to the other end. So I'll take it over to my sewing machine and sew from the hem line of the sleeve to this underbust, and I'll skip to the waistline and continue to the hem line of the dress. So guys, I am done shaping, and this is what we have. So I've gone ahead to shape from the hemline of the sleeve to the hemline of the dress. So I also had to leave in this space for inserting our loop. So I'll just go ahead and fold the loop into two, and I'll insert it inside the dress, leaving about ½ inch for joining, so that I'll be able to sew on the ½ inch, and I'll hold it on with a pin on the shaping area. So this is what we have. So I'll do the same process. Now I fixed the first loop on the underbust. I will fix the second loop on the midpoint area here, leaving about ½ inches on the shaping allowance like this, and I'll hold it on with a pin, and I will also do the same thing to the waistline area. So I'll just go ahead and fold the last loop here, and I will insert it inside on the waistline area. So whatever thing I do to one end, please, I'll do it to the other end. So I'll just go ahead and pin it like this, so that I'll be able to sew it. So guys, I am done pinning, and the next thing for me is to sew. I'll continue from the underbust to the waistline, and I'll do the same thing to the other end. So guys, when I'm done sewing that end, I will also go ahead and hem the sleeve length. That is, I'll go ahead and fold it with the 2 inches that I added earlier. I'll open it up like this, and I'll fold it like this into 2 folds, and I will sew the hemline of the sleeve area like this. So after sewing the hemline, I also do the same thing to the gown length. That's the hem of the dress itself. I also go ahead and fold it into 2. Remember, I also added 2 inches as my folding allowance. I also go ahead and do the same thing, and I will weave the inner side of the dress. So guys, I am done shaping and also inserting our loop. So the next thing for us to do is to look at the hemline of the sleeve and also the hemline of the dress. You can see how it is. So the next thing for us to do is to drape. You know that side drape that is on the dress. So this is how I will drape it. Now, from where you want your drape to start from, I want mine to start at the waistline here, just few inches after the side of the dress. I think about 3 inches. Then I will come down by 4 inches, and I will give it a loose stitch from this 4 inches here to meet this waistline here. So this depends on you, how you want yours to be. So but for me, this is what I did. So I'll just go ahead from the 4 inches below the waistline. I'll give it a loose stitch to meet the waistline like this. I'll just go ahead and give it a loose stitch. So sorry, I am blocking this particular side, but you can just see what I am doing. I'll give it a loose stitch, and when I'm done giving it a loose stitch, I will drag it. Then I'll repeat the same process, so you can see what I am doing. So I'll just go ahead and sew it like this, so you can see the drape or the ruched, yeah, like this. So I'll go ahead and do the same process repeatedly, so it could stick together. So you can see what I am doing. I'll just go ahead and do the same thing over and over again, and I will make sure that place is sewn very well, so you can see what we have here. So guys, I am done, and this is what it looks like. I also went ahead to like fixing the rope at the back. So this is the front piece of the dress, and I'll show you guys the back piece of the dress. So if you've watched to this point, thank you so much for watching, and this is the back piece of the dress. So thank you so much, and see you in our next video. Bye.